Hello, my name is Jacob, and I'm a Norse Pagan. And if you check out our Fellowship of Northern Traditions website, you'll see that this concept of the gods, the folk, and the spirit are really the backbone and the foundation of our religious practice as a community. Now, I may say Norse Pagan here, but really what I'm saying is that I worship the gods of old Northern Europe when I say that. But very early on in my YouTube career, I talked about this idea of the gods, the folk, and the spirits. In fact, it was so early, it was, I believe, my third video, and I recorded it in my first month of YouTubing when I had 30 subscribers and I didn't know what I was doing. And so in this video, I actually want to return to that video, share a little bit of it, and talk about what has changed, but also what hasn't changed, because obviously this is an idea that has continued forward all the way to now, starting this community that may last for lifetimes to come. At least we hope it lasts for lifetimes to come. Additionally, in this video, we recently had a community hike here for the Fellowship of Northern Traditions here in Kentucky. And this idea of the gods, the folk, and the spirit were all kind of baked into this as well as we went on this hike. And throughout the hike, we gave 3 separate offerings and had 3 separate moments for the gods, the folk, and the spirits. So I want to share that throughout this video. So there's a lot of good things in here, a lot of reminiscing on the past and what has changed, and sharing what this community is moving forward. So without further ado, let's go ahead and walk down literal memory lane as I retrace my steps when I talked about the 3 pillars of paganism.
Hello, my name is Jacob, and I'm a Norse Pagan. I'm out here at the beautiful Raven Run Nature Sanctuary to kind of go on a hike and take you around and show you some beautiful locations that I've found over the years. The folk, well, us. We are one of the most important parts of this religion, and any religion, because without us there is no worship, without us there is no sacrifice. And even in my lifetime, I've seen the death of tradition, which is haunting to me.
So it was just about right here where I started talking about the folk, the first concept in this video. And just a few funny notes. It's so crazy to see how much my YouTubing presence has changed. You know, back then I wasn't projecting my voice. I was talking like right here, you know, I wasn't projecting, and now I always basically talk to a camera, I feel like, in real life, and I think it kind of scares people. But the concepts in this, I feel like, really haven't changed that much. Maybe some of my wording and how I talk about it. But the first thing I really brought up was holidays and how I wish there was more celebrations around religion that were sacred, that weren't about consumerism. And I think if you've watched this channel and watched it change, you see that I've talked about these concepts quite a bit. I've talked about minimalism, digital minimalism, how to live with less and things like that, and how these concepts really tie to paganism, and even concepts such as hygge, living in comfort. And then also just in general, I see the ideas of getting together for festivities and celebrations as so important religiously, and how those things were kind of robbed from the American culture, at least by things like Christmas and Christmas shopping, Thanksgiving and Black Friday. And I think it's important to remember that when I filmed this first video, I hadn't even had a gathering yet. Again, I had 30 subscribers when I first started talking about this. Now, I had dreams of it, and I think it's very clear from this this video that I did have dreams of it, but it wouldn't be for another 6 months that I would have the first pagan gathering here in Kentucky, at least for my community.
And I know, for one thing, when my grandfather dies, I'm going to be writing a song about him. He's been a huge influence in my life, and he deserves it. And I think that's the thing that means the most to him, is that he has a legacy that can carry on his name. It's not about weeping at a gravestone. It's about celebrating the life we've had.
Now, something here, this is really interesting, and I plan on exploring more here in a video about honoring your ancestors, but I had forgotten I had actually mentioned growing closer to my grandfather here. And so this is something that I've continued today. Him and I actually have recently built a kitchen table together because he was a carpenter and I wanted to learn more from him. So we built a kitchen table for my house. I've also been spending more time with him talking about the people who came before, talking about his grandfather and great-grandfather who I never really knew. I mean, obviously I never met them, but as far as their names or what they look like. And more recently, I've learned a lot more about my family going all the way back to the 1850s. And that's something I would have never explored if it wasn't for paganism. Of course, you sit there and you listen to your grandparents talk about the old days, but this is the first time I really felt like I was invested in it. And I was like, no, let me write this down. And I started writing down those names of family members. For instance, here in Kentucky, one of my great uncles was actually buried in one of the worst disasters in a coal mine out in eastern Kentucky that killed, I believe, over 50 people. So not a happy thing to know, but it is interesting that, my family is shaped into Kentucky and literally into the hills as well. Another thing that has really stuck through that I first said in here is that we shouldn't be afraid to drive to see other pagans. And again, this was before the first gathering. And something I think is very unique to our community, obviously not exclusive, but it seems like the Wisdom of Odin community and that what's become the Fellowship of Northern Traditions, people are not scared of the drive. I mean, we have had people drive literal hundreds of miles to come to a gathering. They drive for days and hours from one side of the country to the other. They've flown. I mean, I'm flying over to Europe to go to our Netherlands gathering, and it's something that we don't even see as a challenge. It's not something that is a factor to us just because we want to be around our friends and community so badly. And now, I know people around this country that I've been able to meet at these gatherings, and it's one of the most humbling and amazing experiences. So I would say it once again, if you want to meet other pagans, don't be afraid of that drive. It really is worth it. And going through that journey, having the ability to drive for 6, 8, 10 hours to go to an amazing spiritual event and meet people of the faith, I think is honestly, it's simply amazing. And it's something I hope to continue to see within our community today. Now, with that, as we transition over to this next section on land spirits and talking about the spirits in this faith, I do want to play for you a clip of our community gathering where we went out and we talked about the ancestors while on a hike. So I'll share that clip with you here as I transition over to talk about the spirits.
And the thing I love about this spot is I like to think the mindset of the people that came before us thousands of years ago, if they would have been exploring this land and they would have come to a spot like this, I almost have a guarantee they would have felt a spiritual presence here. And so whenever I see something like this, I think about that. I think about what it would look like to have people with torches on the edges, people with drums, people calling out to the old ways. And when I traveled abroad, I found out this is the truth. When you come to places like this in Germany, there's always stories of pagan temples and festivals happening there. And so I think our ancestors felt something that we see now. And I think that's one of the big reasons why we come back to this for moments like these. So as I pour this out, I want to say, hail to the ancestors, hail to those who came before, and those who got us here. Hail. Hail. Spirits are the next most important part of paganism. Here is actually a spirit I know. It's the first one that ever really showed itself to me. When I was first communing with the gods, when I was first talking to Odin, first talking to Thor and Loki, and leaving them offerings, I felt their presences, and I knew they were individuals, and I knew who they were. And then one day I was hiking here, and I felt something. I felt that godly presence, but it wasn't a god. It was the spirit that lived here. And normally this water is flowing, it's gushing water, but it hasn't rained a lot lately, and maybe it's because I haven't visited in a while.
And here we are, quite a bit different than the last time I was here, at least in video format. As you can see, the water is flowing quite well now, but it is a different season after all, and there are far less mosquitoes, which is really nice. I am actually going to transition a little bit further down, but I wanted to show you, this exact spot, kind of as it was 3 years ago, but it is quite loud still at the same time.
Okay, it might be a little bit quieter here, but we are here to talk about the spirits, so that makes sense that there's a little bit of the spirits in the background. Now, this is probably the component we focus on a lot as a community. Now, all three of these are equally important to our community, but nature in particular, especially here in North America, is something that we truly believe needs to be honored and protected more. I mean, I was here 1 week ago just hiking, and I found an entire bag's worth of trash, and then sure enough, walked kind of the same trails and found more trash. I honestly don't even understand the mindset of people that are drinking a bottle of water and then throw it out into nature while they're on a hike after they're done.
Oh, I just finished this great plastic bottle of water out here in nature. It was so hydrating. Yeah. Love nature.
So this is something that has grown in importance to us as a community. As I started kind of the Saving Midgard thing last year, which we hope to continue on into our community now. And the reason we see land spirits is so important, I learned quite a bit when I went to Europe. It's because the land has become so overgrown with people. Even the beautiful nature spots are just flooded with so many people and tourist attractions just because there are so many people all in Europe and there's just not enough space. So here in North America, we're lucky enough to have natural beauty, at least a lot of natural beauty. So I think we see it as our duty as pagans to honor and protect it as much as we can. So why should you do this? As a pagan maybe coming into this, or maybe just trying to convince you, why are spirits so important? Well, first off, historically, we see that the Scandinavian people often went to land spirits for local advice. And that's something I mentioned in the video from almost 3 years ago, that land spirits are always around. This is always gonna be here. This hasn't gone anywhere. Well, hopefully it'll always be here. But this hasn't gone anywhere since I filmed here 3 years ago. The gods are kind of this ever morphing, changing, moving thing that we really can't pinpoint into one location. And so, the gods aren't necessarily always gonna be around. And this hopefully will be. And so you can come back here, give offerings, commune with it.
speak with it, share your experiences, and the land spirit's going to be here. So I think it's one of those beautiful parts about this faith is that when our gods go off and do whatever gods do, and whenever we get too confuddled in our own minds, we still have the spirits here, even when we can't feel the gods.
One thing I was also going to say is our children. So if we raise our children with the idea of landvatir and land spirits, I don't think they'll litter, and I don't think they'll disrespect the environment, and we'll raise a stronger, better generation because they have that respect for nature. I mean, children nowadays aren't being taught the sacredness of the land, the sacredness of the water. I mean, that's a big Native American thing, but it's also a big pagan thing. In fact, most religions that have a nature-based religion respect the nature that they're in.
Something that I was really happy that I mentioned in here as well is the fact that, teaching children, this is something that generationally, as children come into this faith, if we teach them about honoring land spirits, hopefully we will have less people in this world that throw plastic water bottles on hiking trails, when they're hiking around.
Yeah, love nature.
So hopefully, the more and more we teach our children and the children we can influence in our lives through friends and family, that spirits are important, land spirits are real, and we should honor them. I think we're going to live in a much better and hopefully cleaner world. So with that, we're going to head down the trail and retrace my steps furthermore to the last topic here, which is the gods. And just like before, I'm going to show you the clip of our nature land spirit offering we gave as community at that community hike. And I will also say here, this community hike was free, and we're hoping to do more free events here soon that are just day trips to come to beautiful places and give small offerings like this. So I hope you enjoy this small offering we give to the land spirits as a community as I transition to talk about the gods.
Is it refreshing?
No. This trail I probably hiked more than any other trail in my life. Just because the changing seasons here always look different and I always experience it differently. This is one of the first trails I encountered in Land Spirit. It's a place I've taken some of my closest friends. It's a place I've met random travelers. I've come here and that's when I met those travelers on the side of the road asking, I don't know where we are, where should we hike? And I ended up walking this entire trail with them all the way to the top. It was an amazing Odin experience, and I've just had so many memories here. I've given so many offerings in this water or right there on that rock. In fact, that rock sitting right there is one I've used for offerings to place them on before. So I have a lot of memories tied to this place. And so when thinking of this hike, I can think of no better place, because this is where a lot of my journey started, was in these woods, was in this water. I mean, I've left Odin totems, I've left Thor totems. It's really amazing to be able to be here with all of you. From something I started that I honestly didn't think was going to go anywhere is one of the most humbling experiences in my life. And I love sharing those things with these spirits of these woods. And that's what I think land spirits really are things that we can go and we can share our experiences and just feel a connection all the time. And whenever I come here, I just think of this nature. I just think of this water. My feet are numb now, and I can't feel it anymore. So if you have an offering for the land spirits, please place it around the edges here or in the water as I'm about to do. Hail to the land spirits.
Hail.
I hope you're enjoying this walk down memory lane with me. I know it's been interesting myself to see how much has changed, but also what hasn't. Now, one thing that's changed is definitely the nonprofit is here, and very soon we'll be announcing the push for the Hall land here. So make sure you like and subscribe here. You go to that website, you follow us there, you sign up for the newsletter. It's coming real soon. So be sure you're checking out there pretty often, but also we're posting all of our gatherings there as well. And if you are interested in supporting me here at the Wisdom of Odin, please think about going to Patreon. The lowest tier is $5 a month, which gets you into our community Discord, and it goes all the way up to a book supporter tier where you get exclusive sneak peeks at the book that I am writing that is nearing completion as well. Thank you all so very much for the journey here at the Wisdom of Odin. I can't believe it's almost been 3 years, and it's really exciting to see how much it's changed, how much it's grown, and what it has led to, which very soon, next year at the same time, we may be sitting on our own piece of land, which is insane. Thank you so very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this video.
And this is where we're going to talk about our third most important part of paganism, and that is definitely the gods. How do we worship the gods? How do we honor them? Step one is talking to them. It's the most simple thing you can do. Even on the trail here, I was talking to Odin, I was talking to Thor, I was just saying out in the world. I mean, that's power. I mean, their names have not been said for thousands of years, not at least in mass numbers. So having someone say their name and speak to them gives them power, gives them strength.
And here we have arrived at the first great view I showed on this channel. And here we are at the first great view I showed on this channel, and it's crazy to think how many more I've shared since. Now, this is the Kentucky River, and it's very chocolatey right now, as we like to call it, because it's rained a lot here recently, so it's kind of gross. Casey, what are you doing?
Just napping.
So the last time I was here, I talked about the gods, and it was actually really interesting going back and watching this segment because honestly, it hasn't changed very much, which was surprising, but also really uplifting that even after almost 3 years, my advice still kind of stands. If you want a connection with the gods of old, these Norse gods, call out to them, see what happens. I think you're gonna be really surprised, and I think this is the best advice I've really given over the years. In fact, I've actually stood in this spot as well and did another video where I gave my big advice for 2021 was to go outside. And so I've given a lot of very simple advice here in this exact spot, and I still stand by it. Going outside and speaking to the gods is one of the best and fastest ways to get a connection and to get into this faith. Now, one thing that I said here that actually stood out to me even today and actually made me sit back and go, huh, that's actually really interesting, is I said something along the lines of, we do not have gods of forgiveness. We have gods of honor. And so if you want a connection to these gods, or you feel bad because you don't have a connection or you've been disconnected, don't ask for forgiveness, because I don't think these are really gods that are here to say, I forgive you. Honor those gods. If you feel like you've been disconnected to Odin or to Freya, go out and do something that would honor them. Do something that would emulate Odin. Seek wisdom, seek love if you're looking for Freya. Just live a good life. Honor your family and the nature around you. These are the ways we connect more to our deities. It's not sitting before an altar, a giant cross, and saying a giant Mjolnir and saying, "Oh, please, Odin, forgive me for this." This is not that kind of religion. And looking back and seeing that's something I said 3 years ago, it was like, you know what? I needed that reminder. So this is my reminder to you that we're not here to seek forgiveness from our gods. We're here to live and to live with honor and to honor the gods, the folk, and the spirits. Now, the last thing I want to share here in this segment is I maybe famously or infamously, this is kind of where I started my shouting era of YouTubing, where I was really big into shouting towards the gods, where I stood in this valley and I hailed Odin, and this kind of led to a few more videos.
Hail Odin, the All-Father! He exists and he is real! And I am a Norse pagan.
And I would definitely say that ritualistically, we still get a little loud, but it's more nuanced. We do it for specific reasons in our ritual practice. And I would definitely say this is an age thing. The more I've gotten mature in this faith, the more I've done in this faith, the less loud I have gotten. But I would say I'm still a pretty shouty person in certain rituals. But it's very interesting to see this is the first time I kind of started doing that. I would definitely say my relationship with the gods has gotten a little bit more quieter over the last few years. So that is the end of this video and this walk down memory lane. What I'll leave you with here is the last segment of that offering we gave as a community, hailing the gods. Now, it's going to be a little bit harder to hear just because of the wind, so most likely there's not going to be a lot of audio. But again, I just want to show you that, here I am standing on a high point looking over a river, and this is where I was 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago, and we were doing something very similar as a community. Ultimately, paganism, yes, I think it needs to evolve, it needs to grow and allow us to grow. But at the same time, I don't think it's something that dramatically changes over the years. Something I'm doing right here, right now, is going to be very similar to what I'm doing 30 years from now, just as it was similar to what I was doing 3 years ago. So thank you all so very much for joining me for this video. Again, please make sure you're checking out the Fellowship of Northern Traditions. We're making some pretty big moves here very soon. But truly, once again, until the hall, hail the folk, hail the gods, and hail the spirits. And skull. So, I don't know what all there is to say about that. We can talk about Odin, we can talk about Thor, Levanir, Aesir. But I think most importantly, we just have to remember that on beautiful days like this is what we're thankful for gods. And when life gets hard, like it does, like when we climb, it's all we can think about. All we can think about is losing our breath for the next step. Then once we reach that point, we can finally sit back and realize how much it's worth it as life gets harder. So every now and then, you end up hiking with around 13, 14 people that you didn't know a year ago, 2 years ago, and you're thankful for it. So this is to the gods, but also to us for making this hike.
thank you all for joining me. And hail the gods. Hail Odin. Hail the Aesir. Hail the Vanir.
Hail!
Hail!